Joining us now, DNC Vice Chair David Hogg.
I will defer to the former DNC member on this.
I am a former DNC member. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay. I want to play Malcolm Kenyatta, a piece of what he put out on social media yesterday and today. Take a listen to the other vice chair of the DNC, Kenyatta.
We have spent now weeks talking about one person, not about what the party needs to do, but talking about one person. And now, as this new thing has happened, the press is rushing to take David's word for it, that this is yet another way that people are trying to get him. David knows that's bull. I refuse to sit here and allow the press to continue to push this narrative as if I'm not sitting right here, and as if I didn't get way more votes than he got, and as if I haven't been doing the work of trying to rebuild.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Are you saying like you're not supposed to, like David shouldn't be the vice chair? What?
As this new thing has happened, the press is rushing to take David's word for it, that this is yet another way that people are trying to get him. David knows that's bull. I refuse to sit here and allow the press to continue to push this narrative as if I'm not sitting right here, and as if I didn't get way more votes than he got, and as if I haven't been doing the work of trying to rebuild this party.
What's your response to that?
Look, I have an enormous amount of respect for Malcolm Kenyatta as a vice chair of the DNC. Obviously, there's disagreements that we have. What I would say is, you are right. This challenge came months, right after the election happened in the first place. What I would also say, though, is that in conversations that I've had with members of the DNC, the consensus prior to our announcement of the primary challenge effort was that this effort to redo the elections was not going to make it past the committee. It was not going to move forward. That was the consensus of many of the members that I have talked to.
On the Credentials Committee?
Well, specifically around the DNC when they had conversations about this. And the belief now is that this is a useful opportunity that unfortunately has caught up Vice Chair Kenyatta as well in it, to use a simple majority in order to essentially vote me out instead of the two-thirds or the two-thirds requirement that they would have to officially remove me as an officer, because the consensus prior to this was that this was not going to move forward, but they believe, many of the members that I have talked to, that it is moving forward as a convenient way to remove me effectively with a simple majority.
I just want to make one statement and then I'll defer to the chairman and Alicia. I think that there are a lot of people that would say your argument is an argument that, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Given everything that's happening, they are trying to get him out. But as you well know, the DNC, i.e. the officers in the building, they do not dictate what the membership does in terms of these committee hearings. And so if the feeling of the people on the committee has in fact changed, it's because that's what the membership does feel like. And so I think that you're conflating two things. How Chairman Martin and maybe some of the other officers feel about what you have taken up in terms of challenging, getting involved in primaries, but not primaries that would cost a race. And then this thing here with a apportionment of the rules.
But it's also the membership. And what I would say to that is, I believe when I talked to a member just about an hour ago about this.
I just don't understand why they are so against what he is doing. I truly don't understand. What are we doing? I don't get it. I don't get it.
She said to me, David, I honestly believe if they came to the committee right now and said we have candidates A, B, and C in this whole situation and they left our names off of it, that this never would have gone through in the first place. And that's the broader issue. It's not specifically that, the officers are playing a role here. It's that people believe that there is a change in faith of what has happened here because of what we're doing in these primary challenges. And ultimately, what I think we need to be centering is, what are we doing to address the fact that we have a 27% approval rating, despite the fact that we have a president that is literally selling a cryptocurrency from the White House that foreign governments are buying in order to bribe him, essentially. He literally just took a $400 million jet, and there is so much more to focus on in that regard in particular. And of course, there are going to be disagreements. We're Democrats. But I think that's one of the things that makes our party strong, is that we can have our disagreements, but ultimately we're all on the same side here of building the strongest party possible to defeat Republicans.
I appreciate the whole idea of what makes your party strong. But it also, I think, creates an unnecessary narrative around a lot of stuff, to your very point, of what you've been arguing folks should be focused on. And the process is about, hey, let's take a look at who we're elevating out there that can win in this new environment.
Okay, this is fucking, I'm sorry, I disagree with all of them except David Hogg. Here's why. Debbie fucking Dingle fell asleep. Look at her fucking sleeping in the middle of Congress during a committee hearing, okay? She's 70 years old. We need people that don't fucking fall asleep. I'm sorry, there needs to be a fucking age limit. This is insane. And the fact that people are so against this and are constantly going after David Hogg, I don't get it. I truly do not get it. I don't understand why people are against him. I don't get it. I think what he is doing is so important because, like look at Chuck Schumer. Like, what are we doing? Come on.
That's being created. At the core of this, David, is the fact that, as I understand it from some of the members, is that as an official of the party, the idea that you would be behind your particular PAC would be in a position to then engage in primaries to go challenge an incumbent. As a sitting member of the DNC, there's some folks that have issues around that, which, I can see that.
Okay, the issue is, I'm sorry, well, you guys refuse to listen to the young people. I think that's the biggest issue, and I can imagine that's very difficult for David. It's like, you guys have failed us. You guys failed us. We now have to pick up the pieces. We're living in an authoritarian dictatorship. So you failed us. So what? I mean, what do you expect?
That argument, but I can tell you that as a party official, and I don't know if the DNC has this thing called a Rule 11, where the party at the state level at least picks winners and losers in primaries, where they say, we want Simone over Joe.
At the state level, yeah.
So you do have that kind of an effort. So how is, I guess my question is...
Yes, not officially.
Let me add this in as well. This is a really important point. This is not unprecedented. There have been vice chairs before with leadership PACs that have been involved in primaries, that have endorsed in primaries. And my concern here is that even if this rule does pass, it's going to be selectively enforced, where when the president appoints a member of Congress in the future that has a leadership PAC, and then they give to somebody, either an incumbent or a challenger incumbent through that leadership PAC, I don't believe that we're going to say to that member of Congress, I'm sorry, you can't be a member here anymore.
Can you clarify, though, which vice chairs had the PACs? Which
we had Gretchen Whitmer
vice
and Tammy
chairs?
Duckworth that were vice chairs that had PACs. And there are also current sitting members of the DNC that are officers that endorsed when they were vice
Yeah, he does his homework. That's what that tells me.
chairs.
Who? And then because what I have been on the phone with DNC members for the last 2 days, and people are, one, they feel like this is a distraction. They feel like what you...
No, it's not a distraction. You guys, again, have failed us. Again, do I need to show up Debbie Dingle? What is coming out about Biden is so disturbing, and it makes me even more angry at the Democrats for failing us, because honestly, he should have resigned and Kamala should have been president. Like, that's what it sounds like. There's some, they said, like, someone put from the book that's coming out, they were going to put him in a fucking wheelchair. That's how bad it was. So I honestly think, like, we need to have a different perspective. Like, do people not understand, like, that they failed us? Like, I don't understand. We are constantly having to pick up the pieces. We're constantly having to, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
You did as a distraction in terms of your announcement. You could have just quietly did it. They're like, why he got to make an announcement? So that's one point of contention.
What? Why would he do it quietly? He has to fundraise. Why? I think that's why. These people make no sense, honestly. Like, why wouldn't he? He has to fundraise. He has to get people excited. Do you know how many people that, especially younger people, millennials, are excited about this? Like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't he announce it? How do you do this quietly and still raise the money that you need to support each candidate? That doesn't make sense.
And you can respond to if you'd like. But also, a lot of people feel like you're trying to have it both ways. Even though there are people that, a lot of people also agree with you. They agree that members just are not entitled to a seat. Members of Congress should not be entitled to a seat. The people own these seats. But people say that you want to have it both ways. You want to be both judge and jury. And you are cherry picking examples, people have said to me, to underscore your position. And if you really take a deep look, like I worked for Senator Sanders. And, you know, I do remember 2015, 2016. There were people that really do feel as though that the DNC rigged the election. And I had to go out after we lost at the convention and say, I worked for Senator Sanders. Somebody rigged the election. He didn't win enough votes from black and brown people. But the reality was there were people within the Democratic National Committee at the highest levels who definitely had their fingers and thumbs on the scale for Secretary Clinton. And so I don't understand.
And let me say this much. If we're going to adopt.
Wait, I don't understand her point. I'm going to have to. What is she saying? We're going to have to go back. I don't get what she's saying.
Level at least picks winners and losers in primaries, where they say we want Simone over Joe.
At the state level, yeah.
So you do have that kind of an effort. So how is I guess my question is
yes, not officially.
Let me add this in as well. This is a really important point. This is not unprecedented. There have been vice chairs before with leadership PACs that have been involved in primaries, that have endorsed in primaries. And my concern here is that even if this rule does pass, it's going to be selectively enforced, where when the president appoints a member of Congress in the future that has a leadership PAC, and then they give to somebody, either an incumbent or a challenger incumbent through that leadership PAC, I don't believe that we're going to say to that member of Congress, I'm sorry, you can't be a member here anymore.
Can you clarify, though, which vice chairs had the PACs? Which
we had Gretchen Whitmer
vice
and
chairs?
Tammy Duckworth that were vice chairs that had PACs. And there are also current sitting members of the DNC that are officers that endorsed when they were vice chairs.
Who? And then what I have been on the phone with DNC members for the last 2 days, and people are, they feel like this is a distraction. They feel like what you did is a distraction in terms of your announcement. You could have just quietly did it. They're like, why he got to make an announcement? So that's one point of contention you can respond to if you'd like. But also, a lot of people feel like you're trying to have it both ways. Even though there are people that, a lot of people also agree with you. They agree that members just are not entitled to a seat. Members of Congress should not be entitled to a seat. The people own these seats. But people say that you want to have it both ways. You want to be both judge and jury. And you are cherry picking examples, people have said to me, to underscore your position. And if you really take a deep look, like I worked for Senator Sanders. And, you know, I do remember 2015, 2016. There were people that really do feel as though that the DNC rigged the election. And I had to go out after we lost at the convention and say, I worked for Senator Sanders. Somebody rigged the election. He didn't win enough votes from black and brown people. But the reality was there were people within the Democratic National Committee at the highest levels who definitely had their fingers and thumbs on the scale for Secretary Clinton. And so I don't understand.
And let me say this much. If we're going to adopt that type of philosophy, that means we can't work with the DTRIP. We can't work with the DS.
No, but we're talking about the DNC. Let's focus on the DNC.
Because some of the response to what I've been doing,
I don't understand.
And let me say this much. If we're going to adopt that type of philosophy, that means we can't work with the DTRIP. We can't work with the DS.
No, but we're talking about the DNC. Let's focus on the DNC.
What's the DTRA? What's the DS? What is the DTRA? I don't think that's it. No, the DS politics. Democratic Socialist. Okay. They're groups. Okay. They're people who, okay.
DNC.
Because
What they are people who are not just liberals. They're people like the DS is Democratic Socialists. Okay.
what some of the response to what I've been doing has been is that I've proposed that we create an internal firewall in the DNC in order to say, you know what, we understand that there are going to be people in the future that have leadership PACs, that are members of Congress, that are governors and other people. So let's just isolate them so that they don't have any insider information that could have undue influence in these elections. And the response to that has been, well, we can't do that because we're going to work with the DS and the D-TRIP, which famously do get involved in primaries. So my question is this really a matter of philosophy, or is this a way of trying to remove somebody trying to challenge the status quo? That's my question. Because if it really is a matter of philosophy, if they came out here and said right now, no officer, and we will enforce this, that no officer is going to be involved in primaries going forward by any means, but we're going to grandfather the current officers in who ran under the bylaws as they are. The DNC is an organization that is over 170 years old. We have a long list of bylaws that do say specifically you cannot be involved in the presidential primary, because we do have oversight over that, and I think that makes total sense. But if we're going to say that we can't have any role in primaries whatsoever, we need our state parties to be held to that same standard, which I don't believe is going to happen. And we also need to make sure that we're holding our sister committees to that same standard, which I also don't think is going to happen.
I agree with the distraction part. I think the distraction, though, is that you came in.
I think the distraction is that you guys aren't just saying, okay, bring it on. Like, all they had to do was, fine, okay, bring it on. Like, all they had to do was go with it. That's the problem with the Democrats. They don't go with things. As someone who struggles with going with the flow, I'm a Virgo. I need planning. I'm someone who plans. You kind of have to make sure that, you kind of have to make sure that I'm going with the flow. Let's just make it going with the flow. Okay, I completely forgot what I was going to say, so never mind. No.
And you upset the apple cart.
Mm-hmm. And it needed to be.
You came in and you said, okay, this is the party that's talked generational shift. Let's back it up. Mm-hmm. And now let's begin to engage. What makes your position tough is that you're at the table as an officer of the party. But here's the thing. If there are examples of the party allowing that to happen in space in other areas, then what is it about this effort that sets off so many fire alarms?
What I do know about Gretchen Whitmer's PAC and Tammy Duckworth's PAC is that they did not, they didn't elevate particular Democratic candidates in Democratic primaries. They gave across the board to Democratic elected officials, my understanding. And Tulsi Gabbard, who at one point in time was a vice chair at the DNC, y'all, she endorsed Senator Sanders in the presidential primary. She stepped down. She had to give up.
That's actually wild. I didn't know that. Tulsi Gabbard was the vice president of the DNC is crazy.
Her seat to do that.
But what is it?
So what I'm saying is, I think that effort is different. That's what people are. That is what everyone is saying to me. That what you're doing is different than what's been done before. What's your answer to that?
My response is that
I'm still not understanding why this is such a big deal. Like, what you're doing hasn't been working. It hasn't been working, so I don't understand why everyone is so upset. It hasn't been working.
I think what I'm doing that's different from before is I'm challenging the status quo in a direct way and head on, and that really scares people. But frankly, I think right now, nobody should be comfortable when our country is in a moment of crisis. And I think...
Perfect line. Honestly, that is such a perfect line. No one should be comfortable with the crisis of our country. That is such a good line. Such a good line. He's smart. He knows his fucking shit. Like, good for him.
That there is far too much comfortability across the board. And we need to make sure that we are electing the best people possible and in our own party. using democracy to show how we're fighting to give you the best person to represent you possible, regardless of whether or not you're in a purple district or a very blue district. And ultimately, it's not me or any member of the DNC that is deciding these elections. It's the voters in these districts. And all we're trying to say here is let's give people the option when our party has a record low approval rating to say, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're trying to address that, and here's how we're trying to use democracy ourselves to build the strongest Democratic Party possible so that we can get back to giving people an alternative vision for our country. That is not simply saying that we're against Donald Trump, because here's the question that I would pose to the people that don't agree with this. If this is not the answer,
What is?
how are we going to address that approval rating? I know this is controversial, but look, we are not challenging people that are in competitive seats that could risk us losing a majority in state legislatures or in Congress, and we're only challenging Democratic members in safe seats for the U.S. House. That's it. And we're also going to be supporting people running in competitive races. And what I'll tell you, what I'm looking at, Simone, is not who is calling me saying, oh my God, this is so great what you're doing necessarily from inside of DC. What I'm looking at is who are the young people? What are they saying? And I've never had so many young people come up to me to say thank you for what you're doing. I was losing.
That's why, literally, because we're tired of you guys not listening. We've been vocal. So much, really fucking vocal, and still. So, I agree.
Faith in politics. I was losing faith in the Democratic Party, but you've helped to reinstill it. And that's what matters here. We can't have a future of our party when we are losing vote share with every single demographic except the elderly and people with PhDs, basically.
He's right. He's right.
Welcome back to America Decides. What we're about to talk about next may sound dense, highly procedural, way deep in the weeds of the Democratic National Committee, and it is all of those things, but that doesn't mean it's not important. It's an insight into the kind of internal conversations within the Democratic National Committee, which will inform the kind of decisions it makes going forward. So what are we talking about? Well, the DNC is in the initial process of revising or revisiting elections of two vice chairs. One of them is David Hogg, the other is Malcolm Kenyatta. Now, this map...
Wait, okay. Wait, oust both of them?
matter is connected to a complaint about the way the procedures underlying those two elections was conducted. But Hogg is claiming that almost all of this is due to his plans to use a substantial amount of money in a super PAC to primary what he calls asleep at the wheel House Democrats. Hogg put out a statement that read in part, "It is impossible to ignore the broader context of my work to reform the party, which loomed large over this vote." Well, for a very sharp perspective on this, because he's very much involved and implicated, Pennsylvania State Congressman and Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee, Malcolm Kenyatta, joins me now. Malcolm, it's great to have you at the table. Thanks so much for coming in. When I said you're implicated, your election as Vice Chair is also thrown into somewhat of we don't know because of this challenge. Hogg says it's all about trying to knock him out and his efforts to reform the party, and he's kind of a victim in all this, or implies that. I know you have some thoughts on that. Please share them with me.
So first of all, I'm happy to be with you, but with you on the silliest of topics. I know that there are folks at home right now who are asking, genuinely asking, down the street from where we are, Republicans are cutting Medicare, Medicaid, are putting us in a position where
Okay, but here's my issue. Whose fault was that? That's not his fault. You know whose fault that is? That's Chuck Schumer's fault. One of the old fox that needs to go. That's the point. That's literally the perfect example. He is the reason that that this happened. Because he was like, we can't shut down the government. We can't shut down the government. And then now we have to have $880 billion of Medicaid cut, and Medicaid's going to be gone.
the modern day social safety net is going to be shredded all so that they can make room to fund tax breaks for billionaires and millionaires across this country. That's what we should be talking about. But if we are going to talk about internal Democratic Party nonsense, we have to at least do it honestly. And the problem I have, and I talked about it online, and we'll talk about it in some detail today, is that David has such a casual relationship with the truth. He understands, like I understand, that this complaint about the procedural mechanisms of the election was filed back in February. The only reason it's being heard now is because of the due process standards that we have within the Democratic Party, where the person who filed the complaint gets an opportunity to put forward evidence, to put forward her claim. We then get 30 days to respond to her. Then there has to have a meeting set up. And so when I saw David's statement aligning this with this myth that he has been the target of, some Democratic Party smear campaign against him, it really frustrated me. And I was in a position where, as much as I don't want to feed into Democrat versus Democrat, nonsense when we have very serious things happening in the country, I cannot allow him to continue to go out and say things that he knows not to be the truth. And so to put out a statement like the one he put out, when he received information about this challenge well before he made any announcement about Leaders We Deserve, is to say to all these people who are listening to him and looking to him to be a voice of honesty in this moment, people have to question that. He's not telling the truth. And I'm going to be here today, unfortunately, to correct that record.
How do you evaluate David's sentence?
Wait, but I want to know why he's getting ousted. I haven't.
That he should use money, and it's within his right to use money from donors to target what he calls asleep at the wheel House Democrats, meaning those who are not as engaged in the fight along some of the lines you just referred to as they should be.
Listen, the Democratic Party needs to change in a big way. That's why I ran, okay? I did not run because I thought everything was going great. I ran because I thought that there were big things that we have to change. But I think for the Democratic Party to change and to be a party that is strong enough to meet this moment, the way we accomplish that is not by 9 people who are elected to lead the DNC trying to dictate the outcomes of our primaries. The way we build a strong Democratic Party that can meet this moment is by doing the unglamorous work that I've been doing now for over 100 days, making sure we have the technological and the human talent to power a DNC that can reach voters wherever they are. And it also means we have to unify our party. Obviously, we're not there right now. Unfortunately, that's why we're having this conversation. And the noise of the internal bickering among Democrats has become so loud that we are not listening to the American people. I've been across this country listening to the American people, and this is what they want us to do. They want us to talk about what I think is the unifying message of the Democratic Party. They want us to talk about how we're going to make their life better. When people ask, what are the Democrats about, Major, you can say you heard from the vice chair of the DNC. Democrats are about 3 words: make life better for Americans. Donald Trump has spent 104 days making life worse, making life better for himself and for billionaires, but not making life better for the mom who's being squeezed and not even able to really sit with her kids because she's working that extra shift. They haven't been making life better for workers who want to be able to join a union. That's why Democrats are fighting for the PRO Act, fighting to raise the minimum wage. Democrats want to make life better by defending Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, expanding it to cover things like dental. That is what we should be talking about. And for the last couple of weeks, David has not been coming on these programs talking about that. He's been coming on these programs to talk about David. And as unfortunate as it is, because when I got elected and he got elected, I was looking forward to having another young person who wanted to be in the trenches doing the work of this party. But I want to be clear, reforming the Democratic Party does not mean spending every single day doing interviews saying Democrats suck. There is a limit to how
He's being honest. That's what's the problem with one of the main problems with the Democrats is there's a lack of honesty. Well, politicians in general, but like, if you want it, if you really, there's no, I don't know. I feel like they're still not understanding it. There is a 27% approval rating for Democrats. The reason he's discussing it is mainly because it is so significant and he's trying to make a point of how to make it better. How do you say, hey, I need to make things better, but not have any proof? And people now more than ever need physical proof, or else they're gonna like go for whatever and end up having a measles outbreak because sorry, I literally just got hit with being really tired, so we might need to end a little early. Oh my goodness, I just got like, you know, like when you're sitting and talking and then all of a sudden bam, and it's just like, whoa, what was that? But yeah, I think that is what's going on. I don't know. I just think that people are overreacting like always, and I just think like he's doing a good job. Like, let him be. Like, he's doing a good job.
Self-deprecating is going to move us in the direction that we need to go. Our chair, Ken Martin, put forward the most ambitious reform package that we have seen in Democratic Party history. A part of that reform package included the neutrality pledge that I know David has spoken about. David sat in a meeting with me where Ken laid out that vision well before David ever said he was going to do whatever he's doing with Leaders We Deserve. And he even took that reform package, which is the most dynamic, bold reforms we've ever had in the Democratic Party, and even made that about himself. So we're in a position right now where we need to keep the main thing, as the coach of the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles say. And the main thing is working people are getting screwed over by Republicans right now, and Democrats want to make people's lives better.
Bottom line, is the DNC better with or without David Hogg as vice chair?
The bottom line is this. The Credentials Committee said they want a new election. I just put out a letter to the chair asking him to expedite those new elections. I look forward to new elections and to taking my vision of what I've done for 100 days and taking it everywhere.
If David is reelected, you're good with that?
Listen, my hope is this, that the same people who brought David onto their programs to hear from him will actually bring me onto their programs to hear from me and hear the actual work that's being done. If David wants to join me in that work, I look forward to having him.
We're never gonna win. These people are very frustrating. I still don't understand why they're so against him. Like, I really don't. I don't get it. It's confusing to me. The 5. Because I love to torture myself, apparently.
Well, the old guard is crushing the youth rebellion. David Hogg is in danger of losing his position as DNC vice chair after a panel voted to void the activist election to the position. Hogg isn't taking the news lightly. He fired off a statement saying there are too many leaders in the Democratic Party that are asleep at the wheel, and added, quote, "It is impossible to ignore the broader context of my work to help reform the party, which loomed large over this vote." The 25-year-old rabble-rouser recently went wild on 84-year-old Congressman James Clyburn for complaining about his quest to kick out the elderly.
There have been a few members that have come out that have said, well, you know, if I retire, my life is effectively over. And what I would say is, get over yourself. This isn't about you. This is about our country, and it's about your constituents. Nobody is I don't care if you've been there for decades or just one term. That seat is not yours. It is your constituents.
So, Marie, why is it that Democrats, again, are nullifying another election?
Wait, what? I'm sorry, what did he say that was bad? It's true. Like, it's not about you. You're just the person that is the voice. Like, you literally are the person that is the voice.
Just one after the other, the party of democracy.
I agree with him on everything he just said. What I do know is that the DNC isn't winning us elections, right? Like, this rule change and this vote about whether he should be the vice chair, I don't really care about that. I wish the DNC was more effective. We win elections with good candidates on the ground who match their districts and their states. I like the idea of making members fight for their...
The obsession with blondness at Fox News always, like, throws me off.
Some of the best members of Congress we've had, and I know you will probably disagree with me, people like AOC, won their seats in contested primaries. And if the Democratic Party is going to win in the midterms, which I think we can and we should and we will, It will be with good candidates who aren't sleepwalking through elections. And if, look, we're talking about Joe Biden today, we're talking about the fact that too many Democrats are just complacent with the senior leaders at the top, and there's not enough youthful energy. I don't know if David Hogg's doing it the right way. I don't know if he's the standard bearer, but I know we need to do it. And this DNC fight, to the extent that anyone cares at all, is just a distraction.
So Dana, David Hogg gets in, but he is breaking the rules. The DNC has rules about not getting involved in primaries, and he wants to.
I think there's
to primary.
I think parties should have discipline, and I think that if you're going to break the rules, just like fully break them. But the Democrats are crack me up. So David Hogg, it's been the perfect dance of the situation that they're in. First of all, they said we need youth. Then like, wait, that's too much youth. Then the youth are killing off our olds and our moderates, and like throw out the youth. And then the voting procedure thing is just a fig leaf, basically, for the lack of their discipline. Instead of just saying.
I mean, I honestly agree with her. I can't believe I'm agreeing with her, but she's right. I mean, she's completely correct. She's right.
That was a mistake. You're a lunatic. You're out of here. You're going to cost us seats, and let him go. Besides, David Hogg. Remember what, if you look back at his FEC reports, he makes a ton of money for his PAC. He made like $10 million. He spent $275,000 on Uber Eats, and he donated to 2 campaigns.
Well, he didn't spend it on getting a lady.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest
Wait,
interviews
what?
and most compelling. Click here.
He made like $10 million. He spent $275,000 on Uber Eats, and he donated to 2 campaigns.
Well, he didn't spend it on getting a lady.
Click.
What does that mean, getting a lady? What does that mean? What? I don't understand. This is gonna be the last one because I am exhausted. Jesus, I'm so sorry, Olaf. Oh my God. It's okay. I'm so sorry. It's okay. It's okay. I'm so sorry, baby. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, baby. It's okay, Baba. I'm sorry. I dropped my phone on him. It's okay. He was fucking sleeping. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Papa. It's okay. You little marshmallow. It's okay. Okay, baby. I'm so sorry. Okay, big news. Badar Khan Suri has been officially freed.